Thanks for staying with us on Core Digest Tuesday. We're turning our attention on the last segment of the show today on security. Of course, some are very interesting headlines that we captured earlier while we took the dailies on the front page of the Punch. Boko Haram charge Niger troops liberate Nigerian towns. And then on the Vanguard, you see stories like Chadian Nigerian troops who captured the massacre, killed 200 insurgents. Well, we're joined this morning by veteran security consultant, retired Colonel HASSAN STAN-LABO. Good morning and thank you for finding time to join us today.
Thanks for having me once again.
For the first time, we're talking about good news. I recall that for the many times you have come, it's been stories of how do we combat Boko Haram. But then, does it baffle you that this good news for some, they are saying it's coming 6 weeks before a general election. For others, they are saying that probably it's a function of the regional force. You hear names like Chadians, like Nigerians, like Cameroonians who have come to fight our war for us. What are your thoughts along that line?
Thank you. Frankly speaking, it's a mixed grill of all, I would say. A mixed grill of all. And it is coming at this time because I think we are beginning to get our acts right as a nation. The bulk of the equipment we had placed orders for are beginning to arrive, and the troops are becoming better armed to be able to perform their statutory functions in the field. We also, at the sub-regional level, have been able to go into some synergy with neighboring countries, backed up by AU and ECOWAS. We have countries like Benin Republic, Niger, Cameroon, Chad now going into a synergy to see how we can jointly fight terrorism, given the impact it's also already beginning to make on the neighboring countries. So I'm not surprised at the results we are seeing. And like I've always said on most platforms, the Nigerian Armed Forces is a formidable one. The problems we had at the initial stage bordered strictly on the absence of adequate equipment to do the job. Now the boys are having it in the field, and we're seeing the
Are you in any way baffled that much of the accolades are going to the Chadians? International media seem to want to tag their stories that Chadians have come to Nigeria to chase Boko Haram away.
As a professional, I laugh at some of these comments. Like I keep saying, look, can we just allow the military to do their job? When you go into a synergy with other countries on a battle, whatever success that is achieved in the field is generalized. Look at the role Nigeria played in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, and so on. We were not the only nation there. There were several other member countries of ECOMOG that were there. But then, in as much as the world kept hailing us, we knew, look, the victory belongs to us all. If for one reason or the other, the Chadians are able to uproot the belligerent forces in a given area, fine, no problem. We move on. As they are doing that, other nations are busy doing other things, which in sum total is supportive to the actions that are going on. You see, at times when you make comments without knowing what is actually involved, every professional soldier will laugh at these things because the man who is talking does not even know really what's happening in the field and things like that. Do not forget, those who are playing the logistics role, what would you ascribe to them? For instance, if Ghana were to be, when we were in Liberia, if Ghana were to be playing a logistics role in making sure that supplies get forward and Nigeria is conquering a particular place, at the end of the day, the entire praise goes to the ECOMOG forces. Please, let's stop this divisive nature in our comments that would make people begin to feel a bit alienated in one way or the other. You know, that's the way I see it.
It's all right. Unfortunately, on one side, we're taking back terrorists from Boko Haram, but in the last few weeks, we've also seen an amazing suicide bombings and explosions that have taken lives. It seems to have entered into another very baffling dimension. How do you see the armed forces ensuring that we do not get back to the dark ages of innocent Nigerians losing their lives?
That is the true nature of an asymmetric warfare. Okay? You are hitting the enemy or belligerent. I love calling them belligerent, not enemy forces, because most of them are brothers. You are hitting the belligerent forces at one angle. He is busy appearing in your bedroom in another style completely. In an asymmetric battle, the battle space is not defined. Boundaries are not defined. Enemies are not fully known yet, because even the neighbor next door could be part of them, and so on. So I will not be surprised when they start emerging right in our backyard as suicide bombers, because once you overcome him in one area, he's moving on again to another area, emerging in a different, complete complexity that you have problems in understanding. But that is asymmetric warfare for you. So you have to remain proactive at all times. You have to play with your imaginations. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. It is in conventional warfare in most cases that will carry the war books, keep it and say, what does it say? In asymmetric warfare, your common sense comes into play. Because the man who gave you a cup of water just yesterday could be the guy that will take your life the next minute.
I see. Let's look at the role of the Nigerian military in elections, because this has also dominated public discourse for a while. There was even a court order as regards to June 21 APT election that seemed to have faulted the role that the military played in that particular exercise. From your professional point of view, should it be the military's business or that of the Nigerian police force as regards safeguarding elections in Nigeria?
Yeah, I have explained this severally, maybe not on this platform, that look, as far as the elections are concerned, the police constitutes what we call first line security. It is the responsibility of the police to avail us all the necessary protection required under an election process. While the military remains in the background, waiting to swing into action if the police is overwhelmed.
Okay.
Now you may want to ask me, what really would be the role of the military if they are to be brought into an election as this? In the first place, a rules of engagement must be put in place so that they actually know what they are going in for, how to carry it out, and the results expected of them. Let us bear in mind, first of all, in trying to justify the deployment of troops in an election as this, we should understand that Article 3 of the Geneva Convention empowers the president, as it relates to the protection of civil populace within a conflict region. It empowers the president to be able to deploy troops in protection of the civilian populace. The Constitution of the Federal Republic, 1999, Section 217, yes, 217, also empowers the president, to deploy troops. The Army Act itself empowers the president to deploy troops. And I'm referring to Section 8 of the Army Act, specifically 1 and 2. It does not only empower the president to deploy troops, it even went further to give the president what I want to call delegatory powers, to enable him delegate powers to his service chiefs. Fine. However, it is my own conviction that if troops have to be deployed, I expect those troops, one, to have an ROE, rules of engagement. Two, professionalism must dictate their every actions, even though they are protected by the Armed Forces Act Section 239, all the same, because 239 absolves them of any blame in the course of it, whether by omission or commission. But all the same, as professionals, they should move in there and do their job. And what are the jobs expected of them? One, and look at the logistics jobs that is expected by the military to play. Naval platforms and air platforms, that is the Air Force platforms, could be used in moving logistics, election materials across difficult terrains and drop them over for use for election purpose. Secondly, they could be deployed in peripheral outer cordoning to take care of, that is deploying them outside the cities. Now, to take care of entry points where they will find themselves in vantage position to be able to check the movement of small arms weapon and so on into the city, and meant to disrupt elections. Okay? Then they could also be positioned in such a manner that they assume a covert readiness position and be on standby, ready to move in support of the police where they are overwhelmed. These are all the responsibilities expected of the military. I don't expect to see them at polling booths. I don't know what their roles will be at polling booths. I don't expect to see them holding meetings with anybody for whatever it is.
Would you say that this professionalism on the part of the military was dented with the leaked audio clip that we got from Ekiti State?
I would say yes. Yes.
Could that also have affected the perception of Nigerians, to their role and their involvement during elections?
I would say that, but with an added explanation. To me, it reveals the extent to which I think politicians want to drag the military into politics. The Nigerian military, I know, is too disciplined to take such initiatives on their own. And that is why I keep saying that as soldiers, we should, as much as possible, resist any attempt to bring us into Nigerian politics, more so in such a manner that will see us playing roles that would undermine the country's sovereignty in any way. As much as possible, we should remain professionals and just do our job.
Let me quickly have your opinion on this other issue, because I understand we're running out of time now. You recall the role of the service chiefs in the postponement of the February 14 election, and that's why we have rescheduled dates. There are opinions from other quarters that given the efforts of the regional force in northeast Nigeria, that there might also be another need to postpone elections, especially in those areas. From your own political insight, how feasible is that at this time?
I don't envisage any postponement. And if anything, I think the military is doing a very good job in the northeastern axis.
You see elections holding in those areas?
Sure, yes. When they said 6 weeks, I was one of the few voices who immediately that 6 weeks was pronounced, I said, yes, the Nigerian army will make it again. When I say the Nigerian army, I'm referring to the armed forces in general. Okay? I know a lot of friends who said no, what they couldn't do in 6 years and so on. Fine, but the point is that now they have been equipped. And I know the die-hard nature in us. I know what I'm talking about. We are talking about the Nigerian armed forces here. I know the die-hard nature in us. I knew that 6 weeks was going to be accomplished. And you can see what is happening already. Look, be rest assured, elections are going to hold in the Northeast. The military is going to provide an enabling environment for those elections to hold. There will be security and nothing will happen. At the end of the day, the northeastern axis might even end up being one of the safest places where these elections will hold.
How do you foresee that we can institutionalize the independence of the Nigerian military, given the kind of political structure that we have in Nigeria? It seems to be that the armed forces is at the beck and call of certain politicians in the country.
All it calls for is some maturity on the path of, do I say the politicians or the political class? Because we cannot take this away from the president. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So, the day he ceases to be the commander-in-chief because he's trying to play some partisan role, it becomes unfortunate for us all. As the commander-in-chief, as the president, you are the father of all. So he keeps balancing everything and makes sure that the nation is always ahead of him or above him. You don't take lines of actions that are just meant to, take care of your personal interests. Every line of action you take must be in the national interest. If we go about it that way, with the commander-in-chief protecting our entire Commonwealth and making sure the national interest dictates his lines of actions, then the military's independence will be fully intact.
How feasible is that, given the fact that the commander-in-chief himself is a partisan politician who also has political interest in the forthcoming election?
I talked about maturity. There are institutions you don't play with or you don't tamper with. You allow their independence to prevail in the interests of the nation. INEC, EFCC, even though that's not what we have today, but let me just keep mentioning some of them. INEC, EFCC, the military, your courts, and so on. These are areas where we should all have a lot of respect for, so that when the Nigerian court makes a pronunciation, automatically we know the court has spoken. But if the judiciary begins to dine with those it should not dine with, and its integrity gradually becomes degraded to a point where it is no longer taken serious, that is when court orders are set aside. For instance, I don't know, but from my own thinking, I don't see how a court would rise up and want to say 2 weeks to an election, you should register a political party. The political party is to hold its rallies. When will it submit its names of candidates to INEC? And INEC is to reprint ballot papers within 2 weeks. Are you Jesus Christ or Mohammed? What miracles do you want to perform? I expect a court that is making such a pronouncement will take all this into cognizance and not just make pronouncement that will set the nation into flames. I don't need to be told by anyone that such an order will be disregarded. Maybe it is my military background. If I was in Jaga's shoes, by now I would have told the court I am not obeying it, because I have to go on with these elections. It took them nearly 2 years to print all the election ballot papers or whatever materials outside the country, and you want me to do it within 14 days? Come on, take a reality pill. Take a reality pill.
Thank you very much for your insight on the show today. Security consultant Colonel HASSAN STAN-LABO is quite optimistic that elections will hold in northeast Nigeria.
Sure.
And we're hopeful that it will turn out that way. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we're hopeful that you also find time to join us subsequently.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, that's the show today. Thank you for watching. A big thank you to all of you who called in. Don't forget that you can follow us on Twitter at COL Digest Live. There's a repeat of this broadcast in case you miss it at 12 midnight. You can also watch it at www.youtube.com/COLTV, live space and news. We'll also put a link of all of these episodes on our Twitter handle. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Stick around for the top of the hour news. Thank you.
You can now watch COL TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coltvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to COL TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click COL TV, leave a space, then news. COL TV News, a 24-hour news station.